The Galactic Archive was the largest collection of knowledge in the known universe. It sat at the center of the Consortium, a massive station that held every piece of information gathered by the 12 founding species over the past 10,000 years. The archive had prediction engines that could tell you what any species would do in almost any situation. These engines were never wrong. They had predicted wars, peace treaties, scientific discoveries, and even art movements with perfect accuracy. Until the humans arrived. Archivist Zel 9 was a Vorthan, a species known for their love of order and classification. They had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around their head, and each eye could process different types of data at the same time. Zel 9 had worked at the archive for 300 years, and in all that time they had never seen an error in the prediction engines. Not once. But now, standing in front of the main display screen, Zel 9 watched as red warning symbols flashed across every panel. The prediction engines were failing. Not just failing, they were breaking down completely. "Run the diagnostic again," Zel 9 ordered. The junior archivist, a young Kelith with bright blue scales, pressed several buttons. "I have run it 17 times, senior archivist. The result is the same. The engines cannot predict human behavior." Zel 9 moved closer to the screen. The data showed attempt after attempt to model human decision-making. Each attempt ended in failure. The probability calculations returned impossible numbers. The pattern recognition systems found no patterns at all. "This cannot be correct," Zel 9 said. "Every species has patterns. Every species can be predicted. It is the fundamental law of behavioral science." "The humans appear to break that law," the Kelith said quietly. Zel 9 remembered when the humans had first made contact with the Consortium just 50 years ago. They had seemed so simple then. Their technology was basic. Their lifespans were short. Their bodies were fragile. The Consortium had classified them as a minor species, unlikely to contribute much to galactic civilization. That classification had been wrong. In 50 years, humans had done things that should have taken thousands of years. They had improved their own technology by combining ideas from different species in ways no one had thought possible. They had created art that made even the most logical species feel emotions they did not know they had. They had solved problems that the greatest minds in the Consortium had given up on long ago. And the prediction engines could not explain any of it. "Show me the latest incident report," Zel 9 said. The screen changed to show a document from the Outer Rim. A human colony had been facing a crisis. A disease was spreading through their crops and they were going to starve. The Consortium had offered standard solutions, genetic modifications that would take years to develop, or emergency food supplies that would make them dependent on outside help. The humans had refused both options. Instead, they had done something no prediction engine could have anticipated. They had noticed that a local insect was immune to the disease. Rather than killing the insects like any logical species would do, the humans had started farming them. They had figured out how to make the insects into food. They had even created new recipes that made the insects taste good. The prediction engines had calculated a 0% chance of this solution. It was not in any database. No species had ever tried anything like it. The engines simply could not understand why anyone would eat insects when other options existed. But the humans had not just survived, they had thrived. The insect farms were now producing more food than the original crops ever had. Other colonies were asking how to set up their own farms. "This is the 47th incident this year," the Kelith said. "The engines have failed to predict human behavior 47 times in just 1 year." Zel 9 felt something they rarely felt: confusion. In 300 years of service, the prediction engines had never failed 47 times in total. Now they were failing that many times with just one species. "We need to understand this," Zel 9 said. "Contact the Human Studies Department. I want every expert on human behavior in my office by tomorrow." The meeting room was full. Representatives from every department in the archive sat around a long table. Scientists, historians, cultural analysts, and even a few artists had been called in to discuss the human problem. At the head of the table sat Council Member Thren 4, the highest authority in the archive. Thren 4 was ancient, even by Vorthan standards. Their 6 eyes had grown dim with age, but their mind was still sharp. "Tell me," Thren 4 said slowly, "why our greatest achievement, the prediction engines that have guided the Consortium for 10,000 years, cannot understand these newcomers." A scientist named Vex spoke first. They were a Melari, a species known for their analytical minds. We have studied human brain structure extensively. It is not fundamentally different from other species. They have logic centers, they have emotional centers, they process information in ways we understand. Then why can we not predict them? Threnfor asked. Vex hesitated because they do not use their brains the way they should. The room went silent. Explain, Threnfor commanded. Every species we have studied uses their brain in a structured way, Vex said. When faced with a problem, they access their knowledge, they evaluate options, and they choose the best one based on logic and experience. The prediction engines can model this process perfectly. And the humans? Humans do something different. They access their knowledge, yes. They evaluate options, yes. But then, Vex paused, searching for the right words. Then they make connections that have no logical basis. They combine ideas that have nothing to do with each other. They ignore the best option and choose something completely unexpected. That sounds like madness, another council member said. It might be, Vex admitted, but it works. A cultural analyst named Shira raised her hand. She was a Pterillian, a species that looked almost human but with silver skin and 4 arms. I have been studying human art and literature. I believe I can add to this discussion. Threnfor nodded for her to continue. Human creativity is unlike anything in our records, Shira said. They do not just create new things, they create new ways of creating things. They invent entirely new forms of expression that we have no categories for. She pressed a button and images appeared on the screen. They showed human paintings, sculptures, buildings, and machines. Look at this, Shira said. A human artist created this painting by strapping brushes to their body and dancing on the canvas. No prediction engine would ever suggest this method. It is inefficient. It is chaotic. It should produce garbage. The painting on the screen was beautiful. Even Zel9, who had no training in art appreciation, could see that. And this building, Shira continued. The human architect designed it by studying how soap bubbles form. The structure defies our engineering models, but it has stood for 30 years and uses 40% less material than traditional designs. Council member Threnfor leaned forward. Are you suggesting that humans are simply better than other species at creative thinking? Shira shook her head. I am suggesting something more troubling. I am suggesting that humans think in a way that is fundamentally incompatible with how we understand intelligence. Our prediction engines are based on the assumption that all minds work in similar ways. Humans prove that assumption wrong. The room fell silent again. This was not just a problem with the prediction engines. This was a problem with everything the consortium believed about intelligence itself. Zel9 spoke up. What do we do? No one had an answer. The news spread quickly through the consortium. The great prediction engines, the pride of galactic civilization, had met their match. Debates raged in council chambers and scientific academies. Some called for more research. Others called for the engines to be rebuilt from scratch. A few extreme voices suggested that humans should be isolated to prevent them from disrupting galactic order. But the humans themselves had no idea any of this was happening. They were too busy doing what they always did, creating, building, solving problems, and surprising everyone around them. In a small workshop on the human homeworld of Earth, a young woman named Maya Chen was working on something that would soon make the prediction engines fail yet again. She had no idea that she was about to change the galaxy forever. Maya was not special by human standards. She had average grades in school. She worked a normal job as a repair technician. She had never invented anything important. But she had one quality that the prediction engines could never account for. She was bored. And when humans got bored, they started thinking dangerous thoughts. Maya's dangerous thought began with a broken coffee machine and ended with a revolution in faster-than-light travel. But that is a story that would take several more years to unfold. For now, she simply stared at the broken machine and wondered, what if she fixed it wrong on purpose? It was the kind of thought that no prediction engine could ever anticipate. It was the kind of thought that made humans the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. It was the kind of thought that made humanity special. 3 months after the emergency meeting at the archive, Zel9 received a visitor. The visitor was a human, the first one to ever set foot in the archive itself. His name was Dr. Samuel Webb, and he had been sent by the human government to help the consortium understand human creativity. He was old by human standards, with white hair and deep wrinkles around his eyes. But those eyes were bright and curious, taking in every detail of the archive with obvious delight. "This is incredible," Dr. Webb said as Zell-9 led him through the vast halls. "All the knowledge of the galaxy in one place. I could spend 100 lifetimes here and never see everything." "You do not have 100 lifetimes," Zell-9 pointed out. "Humans live less than 100 years on average." Dr. Webb smiled. "That is exactly the kind of thinking I am here to discuss." They arrived at Zell-9 office, a circular room filled with screens and data crystals. Dr. Webb sat down in a chair that had been specially built for human bodies. The archive had no furniture designed for such small, soft creatures. "Your government has asked me to explain human creativity," Dr. Webb said. "I must tell you up front that I am not sure I can do that. We do not fully understand it ourselves." "Then why did they send you?" Zell-9 asked. "Because I have spent my entire career studying it," Dr. Webb said, "and because I have a theory that might help." Zell-9 activated a recording device. Every word of this conversation would be added to the archive. "Please proceed," Zell-9 said. Dr. Webb leaned back in his chair. "Your prediction engines fail with humans because they are based on a fundamental misunderstanding. They assume that intelligence is about finding the right answer. For most species, that is true. But for humans, intelligence is about finding answers that no one thought to look for." "That is the same as what our scientists said," Zell-9 replied. "You combine unrelated ideas." "It is more than that," Dr. Webb said. "Let me tell you a story. When I was young, I worked in a laboratory studying brain function. We were trying to understand how humans solve problems. We would give test subjects a puzzle and watch their brain activity." He paused, remembering. "One day, we gave a subject an impossible puzzle. It had no solution. We wanted to see what the brain did when it failed, but something strange happened. After trying all the logical approaches, the subject suddenly had a spike of activity in a part of the brain we did not expect, the part that processes humor." Zell-9's 6 eyes blinked in confusion. "Humor? What does humor have to do with problem solving?" "That is exactly what we asked," Dr. Webb said. "So we talked to the subject afterward. She told us that when she realized the puzzle was impossible, she started thinking about how funny it would be if there was a solution in a completely wrong place. And then she found one." "But you said the puzzle was impossible." "It was impossible by the rules we had given her, but she broke the rules. She found a solution that was technically wrong but actually worked better than the right answer would have." Zell-9 tried to process this information. It did not fit into any category they knew. "You are saying that humans solve problems by cheating?" Dr. Webb laughed. "No, not cheating. Creating. We find new rules when the old ones do not work. We imagine possibilities that do not exist and then make them real. That is what your prediction engines cannot model. They can only predict what is. Humans create what is not." The words hung in the air between them. Zell-9 felt the weight of them, the implications for everything the consortium believed. "If what you say is true," Zell-9 said slowly, "then we can never predict human behavior. Not because our engines are flawed, but because prediction itself is impossible for a species that invents new possibilities." Dr. Webb nodded. "Now you understand." "But how do you live like that?" Zell-9 asked. "How do you plan for the future if you cannot predict what your own people will do?" "We do not plan the way you do," Dr. Webb said. "We prepare for many possible futures at once. We expect to be surprised. We even look forward to it. To us, an unpredictable future is not scary. It is exciting." Zell-9 thought about this for a long time. 300 years of service at the archive had taught them to value certainty above all else. The idea of embracing uncertainty was foreign, almost disturbing. But also, in a strange way, interesting. "I have a question," Zell-9 said finally. "If human creativity is so powerful, why have you not conquered the galaxy? Why did you arrive with such primitive technology?" Dr. Webb's smile faded slightly. "Because creativity has a cost. We are very good at making new things. We are less good at agreeing on what to do with them. We fight among ourselves constantly. We destroy our own creations. We take 1 step forward and 2 steps back." He looked out the window at the vast archive beyond. "We came to the stars late because we almost destroyed ourselves many times first. Our creativity gave us nuclear weapons before we had the wisdom to use them. It gave us the power to change our planet's climate before we understood the consequences. Human history is full of brilliant inventions followed by terrible mistakes. Then perhaps creativity is dangerous, Zell9 said. It is, Dr. Webb agreed, but it is also our greatest gift. The same minds that create weapons can create cures. The same imagination that builds empires can dream of peace. We are learning slowly to use our creativity more wisely. He turned to face Zell9 directly. That is why I am really here, not just to explain humans to the consortium, but to learn from you. Your species have lived in stability for thousands of years. You have wisdom that we lack. Perhaps together we can combine your order with our chaos and create something new. Zell9 considered this proposal. It was unexpected. It was unpredictable. The prediction engines would never have anticipated it. And that Zell9 realized was exactly why it might work. I will take your proposal to the council, Zell9 said, but I must warn you, they do not like surprises. Dr. Webb laughed again. Then they are about to be very uncomfortable, because working with humans means being surprised constantly. It is our nature. Zell9 made a note in their personal record, first day of working with humans, already surprised 3 times, expect this number to increase. They were not wrong. The proposal to create a joint human consortium research program caused immediate controversy. Council member Thren 4 supported it, arguing that understanding human creativity could benefit all species, but many others opposed it, fearing that human unpredictability would disrupt the careful order of galactic civilization. The debate went on for weeks. In that time, Zell9 and Dr. Webb continued to meet, discussing everything from human art to human history to human cooking. Zell9 found these conversations fascinating and frustrating in equal measure. Explain this to me again, Zell9 said one day, staring at a human dish called pizza. You take bread, cover it with crushed fruit and spoiled milk, then burn it, and you consider this food? Delicious food, Dr. Webb said, taking a large bite. Want to try some? Zell9 declined. Vorthans did not eat solid food. This is exactly what I mean about human creativity, Dr. Webb said. Someone looked at bread, tomatoes, and cheese, 3 things that do not go together, and thought, what if I combine them? It makes no logical sense, but it works. I am beginning to think that nothing humans do makes logical sense. Now you are understanding us, Dr. Webb said with a smile. Meanwhile, far away on Earth, Maya Chen was still staring at her broken coffee machine. She had been thinking about it for 3 months now, letting the idea grow in the back of her mind while she went about her normal life. The machine was broken because a small part had failed. The standard repair would be to replace that part, but Maya kept thinking about what would happen if she did not replace it, if she found a way to make the machine work without that part entirely. It was a silly idea. The part was essential. The machine could not function without it. Every manual said so. But Maya was a human, and humans did not always listen to manuals. She began to sketch out designs, making changes that made no sense, combining systems that should not be combined. Her colleagues thought she was wasting her time. Her boss told her to just order a replacement part. Maya ignored them all. Because in her mind, she could see something that no one else could see. She could see a possibility that did not exist yet, and she was determined to make it real. She had no way of knowing that her silly project would eventually revolutionize space travel. She had no way of knowing that she would become the most famous inventor in human history. She had no way of knowing that the prediction engines at the Galactic Archive were about to fail in the most spectacular way ever recorded. She was just a bored repair technician with a broken coffee machine and a dangerous thought. And that was all it took. 6 months passed. The council finally approved the joint research program, largely because of unexpected support from several species who had been watching the human consortium debates with interest. Zell9 was appointed to lead the program. It was the strangest assignment of their 300-year career. Instead of cataloging and organizing, they were now supposed to observe and learn from the most disorganized species in the galaxy. Dr. Webb brought a team of human researchers to the archive. They were given their own section of the station, partly for their comfort and partly to keep them from disrupting the rest of the archive's operations. From the first day, the humans proved to be exactly as unpredictable as everyone had feared. They rearranged their furniture, they painted their walls in bright colors, they played music at all hours, they held meetings that lasted for hours and produced no clear conclusions, they asked questions that seemed to have no point. And they argued constantly. "Why do they fight so much?" Zell-9 asked Dr. Webb one day, watching two human scientists shout at each other about something called a Fourier transform. "They are not fighting," Dr. Webb said, "they are discussing. It looks like fighting." To humans, passionate debate is how we find truth. We throw ideas at each other, attack them, defend them, and see which ones survive. It is messy, but it works. It is very loud. Yes, Dr. Webb admitted, that too. Despite the noise and chaos, the research program began to produce results. The human scientists attacked old problems in new ways. They asked questions that had never been asked. They made connections that no one else had seen. And they failed often. "I do not understand," Zell-9 said one day. "Your team has attempted 43 experiments this month. 39 have failed. How is this productive?" Dr. Webb looked at the report and smiled. "Because we learned something from each failure, and the 4 successes taught us things we never expected. That is a good month. Among my people, this failure rate would end careers. Among mine, it is how careers are built. Every great human discovery came from someone willing to fail many times. Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb, failed over 1,000 times first. He said he had not failed, he had just found 1,000 ways that did not work." Zell-9 made a note. Human definition of success includes failure. Very confusing. The note became just one of thousands that Zell-9 would write over the coming years. Each note was an attempt to understand the strange species that had disrupted everything the consortium believed about intelligence and prediction. Some notes were simple observations. Humans require sleep but resist it. Humans work better with background noise. Humans make important decisions based on gut feelings. Humans form emotional attachments to inanimate objects. Other notes were more complex. Human creativity appears connected to emotional state. Happy humans and sad humans produce different types of innovations. Neither is better or worse. Humans can hold contradictory beliefs simultaneously without distress. They call this being human. Human humor seems to be a form of cognitive training, teaching the brain to expect the unexpected. But no matter how many notes Zell-9 wrote, they could never fully capture what made humans special. There was always something more, something that slipped away when you tried to define it. Perhaps that was the point. Perhaps human creativity could not be understood because understanding it would make it predictable, and the moment it became predictable, it would no longer be creative. It was a paradox, and paradoxes, Zell-9 was learning, were something humans embraced rather than avoided. The prediction engines at the archive continued to fail every time they tried to model human behavior, but Zell-9 had stopped seeing this as a problem. Instead, they had started to see it as a reminder. A reminder that the universe was more complex than any model could capture. A reminder that intelligence came in many forms. A reminder that sometimes the most important things were the ones you could not predict. And somewhere on Earth, Maya Chen was about to prove just how true that was. Maya had finished her redesigned coffee machine. It worked, but not in any way the manuals had described. She had removed the broken part entirely and rerouted the system through a configuration that should have been impossible. The machine now made coffee faster and used less energy than before. Her colleagues were impressed. Her boss was confused. The company's engineers studied her design and could not explain why it worked. But Maya was already thinking about something else. If she could rethink a coffee machine, what else could she rethink? What other impossible problems might have unexpected solutions? She started looking at the biggest problems in human technology: energy, transportation, medicine. Each one had been studied by the greatest minds in history. Each one was considered solved or unsolvable. Maya did not believe in unsolvable problems. She began with space travel. Faster-than-light engines existed thanks to technology shared by the consortium, but they were expensive and inefficient, requiring massive amounts of energy. Only governments and large corporations could afford them. Maya looked at the FTL engine designs and saw what everyone else saw, a complex system with no room for improvement. Every part was essential, every process was optimized. But she kept looking. She looked at it the way she had looked at the coffee machine, not as a finished solution, but as a starting point for something new. And slowly, impossibly, she began to see something that no one else had seen. What if the engine was solving the wrong problem? It was a dangerous thought, the kind of thought that could change everything. Maya smiled and started to sketch. At the Galactic Archive, the prediction engines suddenly lit up with warnings. Something was happening on Earth that they could not explain. The probability calculations returned error codes. The pattern recognition systems found nothing to recognize. Zell 9 watched the warnings flash across the screen and felt a strange sensation. It was excitement. "What is happening?" asked a junior archivist. "A human is having a dangerous thought," Zell 9 said. "How can you tell?" Zell 9 pointed at the prediction engines. Because for the first time in 10,000 years, they are not just failing, they are giving up. The screens went dark. Every prediction model for human behavior had crashed simultaneously. The engines had finally admitted what Zell 9 had known for months: humans could not be predicted. And somewhere a human was proving why. Zell 9 turned away from the blank screens and went to find Dr. Webb. Whatever was happening, they wanted to see it unfold. Because even after all these months, humans still had the power to surprise. And that, Zell 9 had come to understand, was the most human thing of all. The news of Maya Chen's breakthrough took 3 years to reach the Galactic Archive. FTL communications were fast, but scientific verification was slow. By the time the consortium confirmed what Maya had achieved, she had already moved on to her next impossible project. Zell 9 read the report with all 6 eyes, trying to understand what Maya had done. She had not improved the FTL engine. She had not made it more efficient or more powerful. Instead, she had asked a question no one else had thought to ask: why did FTL engines exist at all? The answer, according to every physicist in the galaxy, was simple. FTL engines existed because traveling faster than light required bending space, and bending space required enormous energy. The engine was the solution to this fundamental problem. But Maya had looked at the problem differently. What if you did not need to bend space? What if you could convince space that it was already bent? It sounded like nonsense. The consortium scientists who first heard the idea dismissed it immediately. Space was not conscious. You could not convince it of anything. The very concept was absurd. Maya built it anyway. Her new drive, which humans quickly named the Chen drive, did not use energy to bend space. Instead, it used a precise pattern of signals to create what Maya called a spatial suggestion. The drive made space think it was already in the configuration needed for FTL travel, and space apparently was very suggestible. The Chen drive used 1% of the energy of traditional FTL engines. It was small enough to fit on a personal shuttle. It changed everything. "I do not understand how this works," Zell 9 admitted to Dr. Webb. "Our best physicists say it should not work. They say the mathematics are impossible." "The mathematics of the old system were impossible," Dr. Webb corrected. "Maya invented new mathematics. She created a whole new way of thinking about space and energy. The old rules do not apply because she made new rules. You cannot just make new rules for physics." Maya did. Zell 9 stared at the report for a long time. 300 years of certainty were crumbling. The universe was not the orderly, predictable place they had always believed it to be. It was stranger, wilder, more full of possibilities than anyone had imagined. And humans were the ones revealing those possibilities. "Tell me about Maya Chen," Zell 9 said. "What made her capable of this?" Dr. Webb pulled up Maya's file. It was unremarkable by every standard measure. Average grades, average career, no special training or genetic advantages. "She was bored," Dr. Webb said. "Bored. She had a broken coffee machine and too much time to think. That is all it took." Zell 9 made a note: human creativity may be triggered by boredom. Investigate further. Then they added another note: human creativity may be triggered by anything or nothing. Prediction impossible. Perhaps stop trying. The council met again to discuss the implications of the Chen drive. Some members were excited, others were terrified. A species that could rewrite the laws of physics with boredom and imagination was either the greatest ally imaginable or the greatest threat. "We must control this," one council member argued. "We must find a way to limit human creativity before they destroy themselves and us." "We cannot control what we cannot predict," another responded. "The best we can do is guide and support, help them learn from our wisdom while they teach us their innovation." The debate continued for days. In the end, the council reached a decision that surprised everyone, including themselves. They invited Maya Chen to the archive. Maya arrived at the Galactic Archive 6 months later, along with a small team of human researchers. She was younger than Zell-9 had expected, barely 40 years old by human counting. Her hair was starting to gray, and she had the tired eyes of someone who spent too much time staring at equations. But there was something else in those eyes too, a spark of curiosity, a hunger for new questions. Zell-9 recognized that spark. They had seen it in every human who came to the archive. "Welcome to the Galactic Archive," Zell-9 said. "We are honored to have you." "I am honored to be here," Maya replied. "I have dreamed of this place since I was a child, all the knowledge of the galaxy in one location. It is like heaven for someone like me." "You wish to learn?" Maya smiled. "I wish to learn what questions to ask. The answers are the easy part." Zell-9 was not sure they agreed. Finding answers had always been the hard part for them, but they were learning that humans saw things differently. "We have prepared facilities for your team," Zell-9 said. "Dr. Webb's people have helped us understand human needs. We have beds, temperature controls, and something called a coffee machine, though I understand the design may be outdated." Maya laughed. "I can probably improve it." "I do not doubt that." The first months of Maya's residency at the archive were surprisingly quiet. She spent her time reading, exploring, asking questions. She showed no urgency to create anything new. This confused the consortium scientists who had expected constant innovation. "She is not doing anything," one complained to Zell-9. "We brought her here to see human creativity in action, and all she does is study." "She is filling her mind," Zell-9 explained. "Humans cannot create from nothing. They need raw material, ideas, experiences, knowledge. Maya is collecting raw material." "How do you know this?" "Because I have been watching humans for 5 years now. I am beginning to understand them." The scientist looked skeptical. "Can anyone truly understand humans?" "No," Zell-9 admitted, "but we can learn to appreciate what we do not understand. That is something." Maya's breakthrough came, as most human breakthroughs did, unexpectedly. She was in the archive's art collection studying works from species across the galaxy. Each species had its own aesthetic, its own way of expressing beauty and meaning. Maya found it fascinating and frustrating. "They are all different," she said to Zell-9, who had become her frequent companion, "but they are all also the same." "What do you mean?" "Every species creates art within the rules of their culture. The art is beautiful, but it is also predictable. You can look at a piece and know which species made it. There are no surprises." "That is considered a feature, not a flaw," Zell-9 said. "Art should reflect the character of its creators." "But what if it could do more?" Maya asked. "What if art could change the character of its creators? What if it could make us see things we have never seen before?" Zell-9 thought about this. In all their centuries of studying art, they had never considered such a possibility. Art was a record of what species already were, not a force for changing what they could become. "You are suggesting that art could be a tool for evolution," Zell-9 said slowly. "I am suggesting that everything is a tool for evolution. Art, science, technology, even this conversation. Every exchange of ideas is an opportunity to become something new." Maya turned back to the art collection. "I want to create something, not just a painting or a sculpture, but a new form of expression. Something that combines human creativity with everything I have learned here. Something that could change how every species thinks." "That sounds dangerous," Zell-9 said. "The best things usually are." Maya spent 2 years developing her project. She worked with scientists, artists, and philosophers from dozens of species. She combined techniques and ideas that had never been combined before. She failed hundreds of times and learned from each failure. Zel9 watched it all, making notes, trying to understand the process. But the more they watched, the more they realized that there was no process. Maya was not following a method or a plan. She was exploring, playing, wondering. She was having fun. And somehow, impossibly, that fun was producing results. The final creation was unveiled at a ceremony attended by representatives from across the consortium. Even Council Member Thren 4, now ancient beyond measure, came to see what the unpredictable humans had made. Maya called it the empathy engine. It was a chamber large enough for one person to enter. Inside, the walls were covered with sensors and projectors. It looked simple, almost disappointingly simple given all the build-up. What does it do? Thren 4 asked. It allows any being to experience creativity as humans experience it, Maya said. Not just observe it, but feel it. To understand from the inside what it is like to have thoughts that have never been thought before. The room went silent. The implications were enormous. You are offering to share your unpredictability, Thren 4 said. I am offering to share our wonder, Maya corrected. Creativity is not just about making new things. It is about seeing the universe as endlessly full of possibilities. That perspective is what makes humans who we are, and now anyone can share it. One by one, representatives entered the empathy engine. Each one emerged changed. A Vorthan scientist came out weeping with joy, having experienced for the first time the thrill of not knowing what they would think next. A Kelith artist emerged with plans for creations they could never have imagined before. Even Thren 4, so old and wise, came out with something new in their ancient eyes. I understand now, Thren 4 said softly. Your minds are not chaotic, they are free. Every thought is a new beginning. Every moment is a chance to become something unexpected. How do you bear such wonderful uncertainty? We do not bear it, Maya said, we dance with it. Zel9 was the last to enter the engine. They had studied humans for years, collected thousands of notes, tried so hard to understand. Now they would finally know. The experience lasted only minutes, but those minutes changed everything. Zel9 saw the universe through human eyes. They felt the dizzying freedom of a mind unbound by prediction. They experienced the joy of wondering what they would think next and the thrill of being surprised by their own ideas. And they understood at last why the prediction engines had failed. Humans were not unpredictable because they were random. They were unpredictable because they were infinite. Every human mind contained unlimited possibilities, constantly creating new futures. No engine could predict infinity. No model could contain endless possibility. Human creativity was not a problem to be solved. It was a gift to be celebrated. Zel9 emerged from the engine and stood before Maya Chen. Thank you, Zel9 said. I finally understand. Understand what? Why your species matters, why the galaxy needs you, why the prediction engines should fail. Maya smiled, and what will you do with that understanding? Zel9 looked at the archive around them, 10,000 years of knowledge, perfectly organized, completely predictable. And for the first time, they saw it not as an achievement, but as a beginning. I will add your creation to the archive, Zel9 said, but not as a record of what humans are, as an invitation to what all species might become. The empathy engine changed the galaxy, slowly at first, then faster and faster. Species that had been stable for thousands of years began to experiment, to wonder, to create. New forms of art and science emerged. New philosophies spread across the stars. The prediction engines were eventually retired, not because they had failed, but because prediction itself was no longer the goal. The consortium had learned that the future was not something to be anticipated, but something to be created. Maya Chen lived to see the first generation of hybrid creativity, beings who combined human imagination with the wisdom of ancient species. She saw civilizations that had been stagnant for millennia suddenly burst into new life. She saw enemies become friends and strangers become family. And she saw something else too. She saw humans learning from the consortium, learning patience, learning wisdom, learning to use their creativity more carefully. Dr. Webb had been right all those years ago. Human creativity was dangerous when left unchecked, but combined with the stability of older species, it became something else entirely. It became hope. Zel-9 lived for another 500 years, longer than any Vorthan had ever lived before. Some said it was the empathy engine that extended their life. Others said it was the new sense of wonder they had gained. Zel-9 did not care about the reason. They were too busy enjoying the surprise of each new day. In their final notes written just before their long sleep began, Zel-9 recorded this observation. Human creativity defies all known predictive models. This is not a flaw in the models or in humans. It is a feature of the universe itself. The cosmos is not a machine to be calculated, but a story to be written. Humans taught us this. For that gift, we are eternally grateful. They also recorded one last note, a personal one not meant for the archive. I have studied humans for 500 years. I have witnessed their greatest triumphs and their worst failures. I have seen them create wonders and make terrible mistakes. Through it all, one thing has remained constant. They have never stopped surprising me. That is their gift, that is their burden, that is what makes them human. And now, thanks to them, it is what makes us all. The galactic records that began this story still exist, preserved in the archive for future generations to study. They tell the tale of how a species of short-lived, fragile creatures from a small blue planet challenged everything the galaxy believed about intelligence and prediction. The records show that human creativity does indeed defy all known predictive models. They show that this is not a problem but a possibility. They show that the unpredictable is not the enemy of order but its complement. And they show one more thing, the most important thing of all. They show that the universe is bigger, stranger, and more wonderful than any prediction could ever capture. Thanks to humans, the galaxy learned to embrace that wonder. Thanks to humans, the future became an adventure instead of a calculation. Thanks to humans, everyone learned to dance with uncertainty. And somewhere in a small workshop on a blue planet called Earth, a young person is staring at a broken machine and having a dangerous thought. The prediction engines, had any still existed, would fail to anticipate what happens next. But that is exactly as it should be. Because in a universe full of infinite possibilities, the only certain prediction is this: humans will always find a way to surprise you. And that makes all the difference.